All right, welcome to, let's see, what do we call this? This is just an unrehearsed episode. I'm Mark Michael, CEO, co-founder of DevHub. I'm joined by Jennifer Koen, franchise customer success, leadership, sales, marketing, extensive background.
Sure.
Great. Okay.
That was a mouthful.
Here's the episode. I'm gonna play the pseudo naive, basically what I always consider like a friend of mine who doesn't know at all what I do after all these years, and then you're gonna play the person that knows everything about franchise.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Real quick. Let's just see what happens. So for years, right, we worked with franchise brands behind the scenes, powering their websites. Franchise. I really had no clue what franchise meant. And I still think a lot of people actually have no clue what franchise means. What does franchise mean?
I need a dictionary. Does someone have it?
So here, let me give you the scenario, right? So a lot of my friends are, I would say, are smart, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they would be good operators. I see a lot of the people we've met in franchise who own multi-unit, right, of multiple different brands, and I've seen their personalities, and I think, wow, I push it on my nephews, my brothers. I'm like, you guys should own a franchise. You guys should own a franchise. But when I say that to them, what is it they're like? I'm obviously definitely not communicating a lot to them when I say you should own a franchise. So when I say that to you, who's been in franchise, what does that mean? What does that mean you're getting? What does that mean? Because again, I've also seen some negative, right? Well, you're not an entrepreneur if you own a franchise. What is yeah.
I think it is. I think it is. You do want to be an entrepreneur,
right? I think
so
too. Same.
But
Agreed.
Here's the key: you're buying a proven process already. So instead of you having to try to figure out something from the ground up, somebody's already figured a lot of that out. So you're getting a little bit of the keys to the car to kind of run with. And I think that's franchise in a nutshell, is you can be an entrepreneur without having to come up with this gold mine idea and figure out
everything,
all the
logos, marketing.
You've got the framework and guardrails in place. And so it really then becomes, you've got to be a good operator. You've got to still run a business just like you would if it was your own, but you've got some support.
It is your own.
It is your own, but you've got support. You've got people that have been there, done that, should have best practices already. So, not oh, hey, Mark, you had to build DevHub from the ground up. There was nobody kind of helping you do that. If you would have slid into a DevHub.
I might own a bunch. So again, one of the things that, again, I'm trying to think of someone who has no clue, right? Well, I don't want to give away half my business. How do you respond to that?
Well, you're not giving away half of
exactly.
it. You're giving away a percent. Read that FDD.
Yeah.
And depends
FDD
what you're giving away.
An FDD is what?
A franchise disclosure document.
And it has to disclose best and worst and all of it about the franchise.
Well, yeah, and it will spell out all the fees that you're going to have to pay, whether it's royalty, whether it's training fees. So you'll know, you should have a good pro forma where you would break even based on what they're showing you for success, but that would answer your question that you're not going to give everything away. Now, you're going to give some away, but the benefit is you're going to have a support system backing you versus trying to figure out everything on your own. So
now moving kind of up the, not food chain, but essentially up my scale of friends who are, let's say now they're a little bit more sophisticated, right? They're like, well, Mark, what franchise is good for me? How do you answer that question? I want to do a franchise, you're right. I don't want to start something from scratch. I would love something that's proven. I would love something that I can basically see what the best is I can do, the worst is I can do. I'm part of a community even within that brand. What franchise is best for me?
I think that's a hard one to answer, and I think it's dependent on the individual. Now, I would almost counter what I just said, because there's been a whole trend for the past few years of people that actually can operate a given franchise model successfully. They can just go and do it any other brand. But I think it depends on the individual, and I think it goes back to franchising is a relationship business. So I think if you're first coming in a franchise, you need to do your research and pick one that you believe like has similar core values as you, that you trust from the support system side, because you're going to be relying on these people. So I think it's almost less about what is the concept. Is it haircuts? Is it dog grooming? Is it this? And more about, the operating model.
Is it coffee?
Is it coffee? Yeah. I mean, and look, summer.
We never know. We never know. It's the perfect situation, it sounds like. And
are we on a call right now?
Mark Michael.
This is what is this on the podcast? This is what this guy does. It's
Look,
just answers calls.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined here by Aaron and Reed. Aaron is the franchisor. We're on a podcast right now, Aaron. I just wanted to put you on there because we're talking about franchise. This is the franchisor of Cafe Arone. Cafe Arone in New York, and outside of New York, outside of Manhattan, it was where?
We have coming up Connecticut and West Hartford. We have Madison, Wisconsin, Fairfax, Virginia. We're excited.
Nice.
I did walk by, I think 1112 Greenwich. It was late at night. We just bought a place in the city. But yeah, I just wanted to connect really quick with you. Just, hey, this is me. That's the guy who's been texting you. It's not spam. The second I'm in New York again, I will reach out to you for real, because I do have. Look, I'm just going to say this to you live on the air right here. I think there's a really good way to do coffee in New York City, and I don't think coffee. I don't think Joe's coffee. I think you will understand better than anybody else.
Well, I will say we just brought on the former district manager of all of New York for Joe's Coffee.
Oh, really?
So that's going to be between you, me, the Zoom link, and I guess everybody on the podcast.
Yeah,
all of our followers.
Yeah, all the one person watching. Like we think it's that sophisticated, and look, and it's not. So real quick, just Aaron, I'll leave you and read a line. I just wanted to say hello, but anyway, this is Jennifer Koen. She's our Chief Customer Officer. This is our executive producer over there. Right there. This is our DevHub offices in Seattle, Washington. And then I'll reach out to you about everything coffee. And once we get this remodel done, we just got the co-op approval on Monday.
Yeah. Oh, good luck with that. Sounds fun.
Well, supposedly it has to be done by January 15th. Otherwise we have to reapply. So.
Oh, Lord. Where's their health insurance? But okay.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, I'll reach. Wait, is there anything that we would want to ask a franchisor for this episode? How did you decide? Actually, Aaron, how did you decide to franchise the coffee concept?
It's actually quite funny. During the pandemic, we opened some locations down in Florida as pop-ups inside of malls.
I think I saw the imagery.
Malls loved it, and they said, "Hey, we'd love to put you in California." And we said, "Well, this is too far. We're not going to California. 3 hours behind time zone." Distance. And the owner of the mall, the guy's got 60, 70 malls in their company. He calls, he goes, "How the hell are you saying no to California?" I was like, "It's too far." He goes, "Just franchise." He goes, "If it's not a market you're going to, and you're not going to be wanting to put your own presence there, and you have a great brand, we like it, people like it, you're not creating competition. You'll find somebody who's determined, who's excited, who wants to be a part of the brand, to do it for you there. And we can make you a portfolio tenant." So I always say, Billy Taubman, I shouldn't be saying names, but BT is the one who got us into franchising single-handedly. So we're very thankful for that, because I think we're on a very fun trajectory here.
Yeah, no. I mean, I always say like real can recognize real. Like I like you more like this than I was looking you up on the internet, but I can tell you're smart, so I like it. I don't
look good on the internet.
Yeah, no, you look better like this, virtually, like this. I like it.
Yes. Thank you.
Cool. I'll reach out in real life. Reed, hey, great haircut, buddy, huh?
It's not looking so good today. We're doing our big on-site this week in Seattle here, and so I had to get a haircut.
Yeah.
All that stuff for the holidays. Yeah, so. I hear you.
Yeah. All right, cool. Aaron, I'll reach out to you once I'm back in January, too, in real life. Are you in the city?
Yes, but not really in January. January is a crazy month for us. We're everywhere but New York.
I know. I mean, again, it's also new for me that like it's still exciting, Like I'm like, oh my god, everything.
Yeah, my wife like loves January New York, and she looked on her calendar and she's like, this is bullshit. We're not even going to work for more than 2 days in January.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'll still reach out, obviously.
Aaron will be at IFA too, so we can.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll be in Vegas. Cool. All right.
We'll see you then.
Thanks, Aaron.
Have a good one, Mark.
All right, bye. So again, getting into my point, the other point, like who decides to franchise a concept? That happened live. Do you guys see that shit?
I mean, all of our followers are like, wow, right
Did you
now.
see that? That was live.
They're like in their seats, like, wow, that was crazy.
That was live. I was sweating the whole time too, just for the record. Like that wasn't like natural for me, even though it might have seemed like that. Okay, real quick. So that was a franchisor coffee concept, Cafe Arone. Is that what he said? Or Arone. Reed, one of our lead salespeople here at DevHub, he's talking to him as a prospect. They're emerging. Obviously, I think they have ambitions to grow very quickly. They're in New York. I spent some time now in New York City, so I'll get with him in real life. But again, that was where I was actually going to lead to, and it just happened to be good timing, which was, okay, so how do I know I have a good concept, and why would I choose to franchise it versus, to open them up one by one myself and self-fund, which I hopefully is not the answer.
Well, I think that's it.
I know.
It's well, I don't know. Maybe some have a different. I think, franchising allows you to scale your concept much quicker. Now, it comes with challenges because you've got to teach a bunch of other people, a proven method. But I think a lot. I could be wrong. Go into it more from a funding perspective. So you can either go raise money.
How do you know you have the idea? How do you know you have the idea that's franchisable?
I think look from people I've known,
right.
It's usually you've proven like pretty high success margins at whatever you've done, and you start
one or two, or how many do you need to know?
It depends. I mean, I think there's some people that hit gold on one, and you start to get this organic, like, hey, are you franchising? Have you ever thought of franchising this? And I think there's some of that happens.
Well, I mean, that's what happened
and they
to this
start
guy,
looking at, yeah,
right? He opened up a cart or whatever.
Yeah, I think when you start getting some of that organic, you get that organic business of people asking about it.
It's
and then,
so funny.
Then too, if it's the other thing I'd say too is it's maybe even outside of funding a lot is just from a pure geographic standpoint, right? So I've even done owner operator models where same thing. It's like we could maybe go and exhaust all of our resources and try to hire these people in other markets that we don't know and get them go implant people there. Or why would you not already hire people that know their markets? They know the neighborhoods. They know the landscape. They've got that.
They're like, I want this location because I know.
Yeah, they live there. They know the area like you. You know Seattle. You know your block. Like, would you rather put something there versus going to open something in Utah where you've never been? So I think there's a geographic play at place that, again, if you want to scale, do you get some people that have those rich roots in those different cities or countries. So
as we've gone more and more into franchise, just at DevHub, you know, and like every time we pass a brand, especially in Arizona and whatnot, like that's franchise, that's not a franchise. Like there's almost no way to tell, right? What's a franchise and what's not a franchise, right? Like a lot of people.
There's no way to tell unless you just know, like you can be
franchise.
like a total psychopath like I used to and just drive up and down and be like franchise. But I think that. Look, I think at the core, if you get to know people, people will know, right? So it's so community based that people forget about franchising. You'll know, like, oh, that's the local owner of X versus there's some manager of Chipotle.
Who owns Alpha Graphics in Phoenix, Arizona, and he's been a longtime franchisee, which now they're changing to, I guess, franchise owner of an Alpha Graphics in Phoenix. And corporate knows him, and he's been successful at it.
Yeah.
And it's a really pretty facility, Larry. Interesting. Let me just see. How much more time do we have?
Pretty much as much as you want.
Well, that's sick. Okay. Real quick, what are some like layman like franchise stuff that I can actually help people? Like, is there any questions you have, audience?
About franchising?
Yeah.
All this people you guys can't see behind here.
What are some of the mistakes people make when they jump into franchising? Because maybe they're not ready, but they think they might be. What are some of those, like, I don't know, like
That's right.
false signs of it's right? Like, oh, this happened, so it's time to franchise because that happened. But actually, that's not a sign you should franchise, if that makes sense.
Well, I might come back to one thing you said. Like, is one location really a proof point? So I think, do they have enough of a proof point in a few different markets that would give you the trust that this is working, right? So if you're going to an emerging franchise that hasn't totally taken off, like maybe you're taking a little bit more of a gamble there. I don't know. There's a lot of things. I'd say you're going into franchising. You need to like do your research. You need to know the players that are on the support team at the franchisor. You need to know the FDD, like get to know all those people. Now, I think there's a lot of mistakes franchisees make coming into franchising where they think like, look, here's one I'd say. If a franchisor tells you it's an absentee model and it's your first unit, bullshit.
Absentee meaning like you don't actually have to
you
be
can
there
keep your full-time job and like you just only have to spend a few hours on it. Like bullshit. Okay. Like I think you can get there once you've maybe bought more licenses and opened more units. Now again, this is depending what you buy. You could go buy a Chick-fil-A and forget everything I just said because you can make a lot of money opening one Chick-fil-A, but that's going to be your full-time job. So you can't be absentee there. But I think, you've got to really sit back and think, from your financial stability and what you're doing in your personal life. So if you're a executive at a company and you're trying to open a franchise and you think you're only going to have to spend a few hours on it on your first one, is just like, it's false. Like you're going to spend a lot more time until you understand your process and your structure. Again, as an owner, you have to know operations, marketing, finance. You have to like do it all. Now you've got a support system, but you still got to execute all of that. And so I think some franchisees think, oh, well, it's a proven process. Like I'm just going to buy this and like I don't have to do much. Like you're going to have to do a lot, especially on the first one. Now I think if you get it right, then you scale. This is why you're seeing other people buy even other concepts. They've figured out the operational model. You can even start hiring your own business within a business because you could have a operations manager over several locations. But I think when I've seen people fail, it's this notion of they don't have to spend that much time on it. When you are, it's still, even though you've got a proven process, it's still a business you have to run. And then the other thing I would say is I've seen many in my past go into franchising and they don't know how to manage people. Who are you managing? Okay. It's not a secret. I worked for Sport Clips for a decade. We would have people come in that, you've got to now go manage 12 hairstylists. Okay. Do you know how to manage creative folks? Do you know how to like work through the whole people aspect of that, especially in like the service based or the retail based? So I think that's another one where it's like, you really have to like understand how to manage people at that level.
Yeah, I remember, again, I hate to say we're like lucky. I don't know how else to say it, but like, I feel like at least myself, I spend a lot of time, actually you probably have more than I have for sure. I think we spend a lot of time with very successful franchisees, right? Who have been in it long enough, but one of the stories was like this guy had been in hospitality for his whole career. He was like 55. He was like, I'm not ready to really retire. I still want to do something. And he ended up buying like a healthcare franchise, and he said, I wish I could have done this in my 20s. And then I met another guy who owned like 16 supercuts and he just sold them. And we were at the multi-unit franchise conference and he basically started at like 21 years old, he was like 35 or whatever. He was like, I just sold the 16 supercuts I own. And he's like, I know nothing about hair. He's like, hair. I looked at the business. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm going to scale it. And he was looking for his next 16 of something he wanted to open, 10 or 5. It was just like, again, like just wildly different personalities that are, drawn to it. And again, like to me, it was that initial heavy lift, DevHub, 17 years. And now maybe figured out still early days of what this thing can actually be versus someone who's already been there, done that, tried a lot. So you won't have to, and you get to just start with something that has had some version of success on a spectrum. Right. And you get to just plug into it and blow it out. Is that all true, what I just said?
Yeah, but I think just because you're stepping into a concept that has some proven success doesn't mean you're going to be successful. So I think there's still the the lift and the work that you've got to put into it. And probably the guy that it's funny because, I worked in haircuts too. I don't know anything about haircuts. Matter of fact, my hair is nice and fresh off an airplane. But, and I used to get mistaken as a hairstylist, which I was like, I am not. But I think if you understand how to run a business at the core competency levels of hiring, managing, P&Ls, managing performas, making sure your operations align with your marketing, you don't have to be an expert in haircuts. I mean, that guy probably is a very good operator. Sure, he doesn't have to know to do haircuts. He hires really good stylists and managers that he's got in place. So I think it comes down to like really learning how to operate the business. Again, franchising helps you because you have support and there has been a success in this same model, but the franchise failure rate is still pretty high. And it's really because the business owner can really screw it up. And so even on the franchisor side, it's really important that you're bringing in the right franchisees. We were actually super, super picky at Sport Clips who we brought in to be a franchisee. So we said no to a lot of people. Now there's some franchisors that are so desperate to get franchisees, they say yes to everyone. And you can have a high failure rate. You can have your brand tarnished as the franchisor too. So
I've met those.
So it's interesting, but it's both ways, right? Like we were super picky who we brought in. Like you better be a good operator because you're representing our brand, but we want you to be successful. We don't want to have a high franchise failure rate out in the world either.
Yeah, and actually, in some respects, we don't really hear a lot of sometimes about the franchise failure rate.
There's a lot. It's still a small business. It's still a small business.
Yeah. Okay, real quick to end it again. What franchise is right for me if I decide somehow listening to you and I riff? It's like, you know what? I want to go different. How do I know which one's best? Like, how do I know? Again, am I picking it based on numbers? Am I picking it based on I love this concept for my kids? I love this concept because I think there's a future to it. Is there one or two things that like I'm new to franchise? I want to look into something. I want to franchise something. I don't know what. Like, how do I even start to think about where to start in terms of what's best for me?
I think that's a hard one to answer, but I think it's got to
rattle off some stuff.
I think what's best for you, I think one, it's got to work financially for you. So
right.
Everybody's financials are different. So those have to align first, but then
practical.
You're going to be in this business hopefully for the long run. So don't pick something that you're going to hate. So, if you absolutely hate barbecue food, don't go into barbecue, right? So there is an element of you want to have a belief in the concept and it matches your values. So I think I would go back to it matches your personal values and financial stability at the time. And then you'll see the right one. And then it goes back to what we were saying, like you need to go make sure that you and the people on the franchisor side match your values too, because you're going to be working with those people for the long run and have a trust and partnership there. So I think I would say again, it's less about like, what is your service? What is the brand you're picking from? Like, is it haircuts? Is it
dog grooming?
Is it sandwiches? Is it dog grooming? And it's more about, does this business and the company align with my values? And does it financially look good for you, right? Because you're taking a gamble, right? You can go put your money in the market, you can go keep working a corporate job, or you can do franchising because that's where you want to be your own owner, or you want to have a legacy that you give to your next generation. So I think the individual has to decide, why do you want to franchise in the first place, and have that list of like must-haves and match it up. And again, like we live in a world where there's so much information at your fingertips to do research and call. The other thing is call other franchisees that already own it and get their real opinion. You're going to see it's just a business. Like you're going to go read reviews that they put on their website, get it straight from the mouth of some people. So having those franchise qualification calls with other franchisees is a big one. But I would go back to, it's got to match your values and what you're going to be able to do as an individual. If not, it's probably not going to fare well for you.
And if we can cue the end of it with the Travis Scott song Franchise, that was the end of the episode. Perfect. Good job, huh?